In either November or December 1996,
Shocking.
Rob Benjamin, Liz Gallagher, and Natalie Augustin attended a managing technology change course held by the Software Engineering Institute, SEI, Pittsburgh. A section about spins showed active groups in New Jersey, Hudson Valley, Southern Connecticut, Long Island, but none in New York City. Rob and Liz discussed this during a break and agreed there should be one in New York City. Liz subsequently brought Natalie into the discussion. They realized they needed some corporate sponsorship in order to get this started. Each went back to their respective companies to present their suggestion and request corporate sponsorship. All three companies said yes, and CitySpin was born. Rob, Liz, and Natalie then set about planning the first meeting, which occurred in January 1997. They got Lex Humphrey as the speaker and secured St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church to hold the event. Over 150 people attended. Let me just toss in a little factoid here for time reference. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was 6,500 when the first meeting was held. Now let's bring Rob, Liz, and Natalie up here so we can give them a huge round of applause for creating this organization. Give them an opportunity to say something. Anybody want to speak?
No.
Go, Liz.
So I'm just absolutely delighted that this is still going on 20 years later because it's so important. I now work for Teachers in Space, and we are teaching teachers about technology and engineering. And this, of course, is software engineering. And we need this. We need this in the world. So I'm excited that you guys care enough to be part of it. And if you know people who are teachers or who are students, please tell them why you do this, because it's really super important.
Great. Well, what started out as a fun thing to do 20 years ago, it's surprising that it's still going on, but we clearly see this stuff going on in the workplace today. So kudos, we have some PBS guys over here. We'll get them in.
I am frankly astounded that an organization can take on a life of its own and continue for 20 years and thrive for 20 years, and it's only because of the commitment of people like Richard and the commitment of people like all of you to the strength of your profession. I salute you all. I am so proud to have worked with these two ladies, and with Richard, and with Bob Jarvis, and with Judy, and other people in this room, to get this off the ground. And I hope it lasts for another 20 years. And if it does, I hope you'll invite me to the 40th anniversary celebration. I promise to stick around if that's the case.
Richard Cooper, that's me, consulting at the time at J.P. Morgan, and the person who would go on to be the longest continuously active member of this organization, heard about the first meeting the next morning. I killed the guy who didn't tell me. And immediately made plans to be at the second meeting of this new group. In February 1997, the second meeting took place at the Williams Club. I attended and brought Tony Hutchings, the Vice President and QA Manager at J.P. Morgan, to the meeting. About 100 folks attended that event. The organizing rules that had been established required that the steering committee would be comprised of representatives of sponsoring organizations. who can provide support either financially or meeting space or however else. As an independent consultant at the time, I did not qualify. But as a VP at JP Morgan, Tony did. Once Tony secured JP Morgan as a sponsor, he became a member of the steering committee. The committee chose Tony to be the chair of the committee, and the organization was off and running. Tony couldn't be here tonight, but he sent the video, which I hope I can get to work now.
Welcome everybody. This is Tony Hutchings coming to you from the Cotswold Hills in England. As Richard may have told you, we spend most of our time these days back in England. We're getting over to the States for about 3-4 months every year. That's our plan, and that's what we're currently sticking to. So sadly, I can't be with you on this auspicious occasion. 20 years of New York Spin is a noticeable achievement. It really is. So Richard asked me if I would put a few thoughts, 2 memories of my time with Spin. So those times date back to February of 1996, when I attended my first meeting at a suggestion of Richard, in fact, who was working with us at JP Morgan at the time. Little did I know that I would then spend the next 13 years serving as chair of this auspicious group. And a very rewarding time it was indeed. I look back on those years with great fondness. So some of my memories of those years are the struggles we went through of putting together the program each year, always a struggle, looking for new themes, looking for new speakers. Thank goodness in the end we managed to pull together the program every year. And thanks in many ways to many of those great speakers, people like Tim Lister, Michael Marr, Howard Rubin, Watts Humphrey, and so on. Some of them, of course, performing several times, as many of you well know. I also recall the evolution of themes that went on during those years, starting as we did with a strong focus on the SEI CMM, later to become the CMMI, of course. Gradually that lost favour with the membership, so we began to switch into newer themes. Testing became extraordinarily popular. Of course, Agile became overwhelmingly popular in most recent years, and we even got into things like Six Sigma. So you could see the evolution of tastes and trends in our interests. But it was a very rewarding time, and as I said, I look back on those years with great fondness. I think all of us on the board had very little doubt that that the Spin would continue to progress and flourish, as indeed it has, and now in very capable hands of Mr. Richard Cooper himself. So sadly I can't be with you, but there's a few thoughts of my times with the Spin. Hopefully I'll catch up with you all one day in the not too distant future. In the meantime, enjoy your celebrations, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Did you know what he was getting into, Richard, when he agreed to present anything?
I don't think so.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I worked for Tony for 6 years, and I think when we started it and when Tony got involved, and we had this very grassroots, let's make it happen kind of thing. And yes, there were struggles to say what were those meetings going to be and things, but it was amazing how collegial it was and how focused on let's just do it. Like we didn't get caught up in a lot of the BS that you typically get caught up in. And that's what I remember about that time. It was like, oh, okay, we need someone for next month. Let's call and see who could do it. And there was always people willing to do stuff. And I think that was really the part that I remember the most. And Tony loved it. Like he loves this topic. It truly was a passion for him, and I think he really got it. So.
Over the years, our logo evolved. For a number of years, meeting venues rotated between the various sponsor organizations. Other organizations joined, and the steering committee grew. The companies provided great refreshments, which probably helped keep attendance high, since at that time the events were free. Among the additional sponsor organizations was SIAC, now DTCC, represented by Gabe Sidri and Mark Lewis. These days, Mark is an assistant professor of finance and information systems in Rochester, New York, and was was not able to join us this evening, but sends his best. Gabe is out of town, but sent the following note. I want to extend my congratulations to NY Spin leadership and its membership in celebrating the 20-year anniversary of active engagement. As I reflect on the 2 decades that have passed, it was my honor and pleasure as a director representing SIAC to be on the committee that collaborated to build the Spin Charter and established a platform for communicating project management and continuous process improvement practices. The founding team members were knowledgeable, enthusiastic, and generous with their efforts and the sharing of best practices and tools from their respective organizations. Since my engagement with NY Spin during 1997 to 2000, project management has become more broadly recognized as a profession across all industries. Developed methodologies have evolved from traditional waterfall to agile, and the associated project management skill requirements to execute new methodologies have evolved as well. NY Spin continues to attract talented professionals to share their insight and experiences with the members to foster continuous improvement to the state of software engineering. Additionally, the networking opportunity for membership that NY Spin provides is invaluable as the members build relationships to exchange their own process challenges, tools, improvement solutions. I regret that I am unable to join in the celebration activities. However, congratulations to NY Spin on this milestone, and I wish you all continued success. Kind regards, Gabe Sidger. Great speakers, panels, and volunteers have been key factors in keeping NY Spin alive and relevant. Without people willing to come and speak to our members and volunteers to help run the organization, we would not still be here. So thank you to all of the speakers and volunteers we've had over the last 20 years. I cannot thank each and every one individually tonight, but I've selected some as representative examples. Floyd Saunders spoke several times in the early years before getting relocated to Delaware and was one of our many volunteers. He's now in Kansas and was not able to make it to New York. He sends his best wishes and congratulations. Sadly, Ed Jordan passed away last year. Ed was an internationally recognized expert witness and computer consultant who specialized in project management, software engineering methodologies, and Web 2.0 development. Some of you may be familiar with Jordan method for object-oriented analysis and design. Ed authored over 24 books and over 600 technical articles. In 1997, he was included among the inaugural inductees into the Computer Hall of Fame. Among his tasks as speaker at NY Spin was being our first speaker after 9/11. Michael Ma is a senior consultant with Cutter's Agile Product Management and Software Engineering Excellent Practice. He is also the managing partner of QSM Associates, a firm specializing in software management and project estimation. I met Michael when he was providing software measurement consulting services to JP Morgan. Michael is our reigning champ, having presented to New York Spin more than any other speaker. Michael has been busy the last few weeks traveling and helping his kids move to different parts of the planet. His most recent Facebook post was from Switzerland. That's him. Michael sends his best and wishes us happy 20th anniversary. I don't see that Tim Lister actually made it this evening.
Not yet, maybe he's
Okay.
on his way.
Well, Tim was signed up to be here. So if he makes it before the evening's over, we'll give him a chance to say hi. Meanwhile, Tim is an American software engineer and author who specializes in design, software risk management, and human aspects of technology work. He's a principal of the Atlantic Systems Guild and a fellow of the Cutter Consortium. Among Tim's books are Peopleware, Productive Project and Teams, and Waltzing with Bears, Managing Risk on Software Projects, both co-authored with Tom DeMarco. Tim also worked for a number of years with Ed Jordan. One of Tim's presentations was titled Dead Fish and Other Things Nobody Wants to Talk About. It was a very interesting evening. Howard Rubin, who has presented a number of times over the years, was not able to make it, but sent a video. Let's see if I can get that one to work.
Hello, I'm Howard Rubin. I wish I could have been at your landmark event today, but my schedule just didn't work out. I'd first like to congratulate New York Spin on their 20 years of contribution to both New York and the world's technology community. It's just been amazing. Though this may sound strange, I was there when New York Spin was born. I had the honor of doing my first speech there when it was 4 years old, and then my last speech when it became old enough to vote. Next, it's clear to me that New York Spin has really aged well. It's had massive relevance from day one and was ahead of its time. We live in a technology economy. Many of you have heard me say that this economy is the third greatest economic force on the planet. President Obama even mentioned technology and its importance in his farewell speech, and that's an absolute first for a president, and sets a context for what you do. Quite simply, with the criticality of software and systems in our lives today, and perhaps being the most important and vulnerable part of our security and safety, even in autopilot cars, we just have to get software right. So I applaud the efforts of New York Spin from its founding to today, and wish it well-deserved participation way out into the future. So best wishes for a seminal event and continued contribution to making technology and the technology community work. Thank you for including me.
In 2000, the tech boom bubble burst. Over the next several years, companies started cutting back on expenses, and providing lavish spreads for the spin was among those things that got cut. As the years went on, the ability to get large companies to provide space and refreshments became more challenging, as did finding volunteers to help the organization sustain and grow, in part because of downsizing and folks either looking for work or doing what used to be multiple people's work. But we soldiered on and continued to look for and attract speakers from local companies to major names in the process and technology space, and continued to find hosting venues. We also had much more competition from an ever-increasing list of groups that came about and met about related business and technology processes. As I mentioned earlier, there are too many volunteers who helped and speakers who presented to list, but I will name just a few more. Bob Jarvis was an active member for many years, serving on the steering committee, heading up special interest groups, and presenting on several occasions. Peter Morales also headed up special interest groups and presented on several occasions. Bob is in the audience. Want to say something?
One of the things I was going to talk about. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So one of the things I was going to talk about were all the great speakers, and you did a great job in walking through all of those. So that kind of took a chunk out of, to make sure everybody's on the list that I was going to mention, because that's been so impressive here. The folks that we've got, one maybe not as famous as some of the others, but one that I remember, and this goes back to 2003, was Patricia Ensworth in the Accidental PM. Is her? I was going through the list of the ones I attended, and not a name that I would have recognized. I don't have her book or books, but that presentation stuck with me.
She could not make it tonight, but she wishes us to get in touch with us, and she comes periodically still.
Which is great. I would like to have seen her. It's a shame. That one just stuck in my mind. There was one, we talked about the changing technology and what's happened, and one of the things that I did present on was Six Sigma, Agile, and CMMI all kind of rolled together. And Steve Bristock, who some of you may know, and I went to the Seattle North American Software Engineering Process Group. We presented out there. But the one meeting that really sticks in my mind that I wasn't speaking at, I was in the audience, was a panel, and you remember it would have been roughly 2003, January, February, March. I don't remember which of those months. It wasn't on the calendar when I look back through the archives. We had a panel talking about Agile. I remember sitting in an auditorium, I don't remember where it was, but there were 2 or 3 panelists talking about their experiences in rolling out Agile. And one of them said, if I ever get to meet Ken Beck, forget what his comment was, but I hate Kent Beck was the essence of it, because he called this thing extreme programming, and that makes it impossible to market.
Yeah.
So I'm in the back row. Next to me is my guest, Kent Beck. And you can see his knuckles getting whiter and whiter. He was gripping the hand, the rails of the side of the seats rather, and didn't say anything that was really good, and they were finished up. And Tony, sly devil that he was, said, "Oh, I think you've got someone you want to introduce." Stood up and introduced Ken. And I just kind of shrugged and disappeared. But those are the kinds of memories and the quality that we've had in this group, and it's great to see it going after 20 years. Meet new folks, see folks that I haven't seen in forever. I was hoping Tim would show up. I saw he was on the list, but it's been a good part. It's been good for me. It's helped my career. And just being with folks who think the same way about software and what we need to do to get systems and processes the way they need to be. This is a wonderful organization. I really hope the energy keeps on going. And Richard, thank you so much for keeping it going for the last 20 years. Time has passed very much.
Brian Patrick served on the steering committee, and Anita Deer was a presenter several times. Brian was also supposed to be here. I don't see him, but Anita is. Would you like to come up and say something?
It was interesting. In 1998, I moved to New York from Michigan, and there I'd been part of the process improvement and actually had worked on writing the project charter for the spin that was starting in Michigan. And did not see the conceptualization of that, and then I came to New York, and this is before the World Wide Web, almost at that time. So I said there must be something like that in New York, and that's how I found the spin. And I think I attended my first meeting in, I think, June or July of '98, maybe July.
Wow.
August, sorry, because there are no meetings in summer. So the first meeting in September would have been the first one. So I have been absolutely happy being involved with that because with Spin, because for me process improvement was very important, software was very important, and it's something that shaped my career, shaped my life. So thank you very much for giving me all the opportunities to speak and be part of the growing knowledge.
Thank you. And strangely enough, something Bob was talking about is coming up in a moment. Ali Gotel is a researcher and has been active in the area of systems requirements engineering for over 20 years. She holds a PhD on the topic of traceability. When she was active in NY Spin, she was teaching at PACE, served on our executive committee, and hosted a number of our events. Our first presentation about Agile took place in 2004 at Pace University. Ali was one of the presenters. In addition to what Bob told you, I caused a bit of a stir during the question and answer section. First, by pointing out that the described processes seemed to eliminate much of the important documentation and expressed my concerns that that might be a problem. Then I got some strong blowback when I said that Agile sounded like simply waterfall and smaller repeatable chunks. The folks on the panel wanted nothing to do with associating the words waterfall and Agile in any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, Ali is in Canada at the moment and couldn't attend, but she sends her congratulations. Also in 2004, the first 10-minute Madness event was held. This gave members an opportunity to have 10 minutes to talk about whatever they wished related to process improvement. We had 8 different presenters that first night, and the topics were all different. It was a fun event. We brought this back a number of times, or variations of it. In 2007, Michael Ma gave a presentation about extreme programming and productivity measurement. During that presentation, Michael showed statistically that offshore outsourcing at that time was costing much more than using the trained personnel in the United States. due mainly to lots of rework needed. There was a surprise guest in the audience that night, Ed Jordan, who wrote about this the next morning in his online newsletter, and that, plus my additional reporting in my online newsletter, caused quite a stir. In 2009, Tony Hutchings retired as chair of the steering committee, and I became the new head of the organization. During this time, lots of other technology groups started popping up, and so we were now competing with lots of other groups for members and attendees. Despite that, we've continued to persevere, and we continue to have great programs and speakers. We were even able to start getting many of our events recorded, thanks to Jolie McPhee and the New York chapter of the Internet Society. We are very grateful to both Jolie and the Internet Society for this. Unfortunately, Jolie had a prior commitment and couldn't make it tonight, so Mark volunteered to graciously set up his camera and pass along the recording to Jolie for editing and posting. So thank you for that. In 2011, with the assistance of Mark Fiedler and Bill Greenbaum, we converted the organization to a not-for-profit. The new official name of the organization is NYSpin, Inc. I became president and CEO of NYSpin and chairman of the board. Mark became vice president of NYSpin and vice chair of the board. Bill became secretary and treasurer of both Spin and the board. Mark and Bill, come on up. Do either of you have additional things you'd like to say?
Sure. I first came to New York Spin in 2007 in September. I remember the meeting vividly. I was in the Six Sigma training program at the New York office of First Data. It was an acquisition. It had been part of Concord EFS, which First Data acquired. It had been part of a very tiny startup called, I forget the name of that startup, but anyway. But we had a Six Sigma program, and I was a software developer, and I was really excited about process improvement related to software development. And after a while, I looked around and saw that not a lot of other people there knew much about process improvement or had much time or the kind of interest I had in it. And I asked around the Six Sigma program, and I said, is there some group around here in New York City I can see what other people are doing outside of First Data? And they said, yes, Francesca Pratt, who was in Melville at First Data, who was a Six Sigma black belt, told me about New York Spin. She said, that's the place you gotta go. I'm forever grateful to her. Jeff Sutherland presented to about 100 people at the Bank of America office on 33rd Street. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. About 100 people come to these meetings. What a great, amazing thing this must be. And it turned out, I found out by the next meeting that not every meeting gets 100 people, but that really didn't matter. And that's one of the things I always liked about Spin. I started volunteering quickly and met a lot of people. And the people in the leadership felt, and we still feel, it's not how many people show up that's important. It's that the people who show up, at least some of them say, you know, there was something I learned or put together here I hadn't been able to put together elsewhere, and I'm going to use this back in my work, and it's been really useful, and I really appreciate that. And I'm going to keep telling people about this and keep coming. So that's what we're still trying to do. And we thank you, all of you, for your role in our success in this. And I want to say, if I start crying when I say this, I'm a crier, so I actually get emotional. I want to say no one has done more for New York Spin probably over the last 20 years, and certainly over the time I've been here, than Richard Cooper. And we are all, Mark and I, all of and keep it up, keep up the good job.
Hi, I'm Mark Fiedler. I think the first time I came to Spin, I thought it was the second meeting, but it was actually the first meeting, because we were in the church.
Yeah.
I remember Natalie, I remember Liz being there. Liz actually brought me there. At the time, we were both working for Morgan Stanley. Process was kind of new to me at the time. I was more of a project manager, get something done, get it done in the most cost-effective way possible. And This organization has taught me the importance of process within the role of everything that I do, and I think now it's part of everything that I do now. Now. We've had a lot of great speakers. Several of them are in the room today, which is absolutely terrific. And I hope we continue for another 20 years, and hope you enjoy it with us.
So here we are celebrating 20 years and starting year 21. Thank you again to all of the speakers and volunteers who helped us reach this milestone. One other factoid. The Dow Jones Industrial Average recently broke 20,000, more than triple what it was 20 years ago. If I knew then what I know now, I'd be a rich man. Thank you all for coming and helping us celebrate 20 years. We do have some more program coming up.